Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We are continuing our conversations with FinovateSpring Best of Show winners, the companies that our audience selected as being the top of the pile at FinovateSpring 2022. And joining me today, we have Steve Frook and Janice of Horizn. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I think a lot of our listeners have probably heard a little bit about Horizn over the years, or maybe seen one of your demos on our stage, but take a quick 60-second introduction for anybody who's hearing about you for the first time.
Yeah, we're an exciting fintech company. We work exclusively with financial institutions. We're absolutely obsessed with helping financial institutions ensure the maximum number of customers ultimately use the bank's capabilities. We work with over 40 financial institutions globally, including some of the largest, U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo. We also work with super regional banks like M&T, and at the same time, we work with community banks like Liberty Bank. We solved quite a few business problems, but the three that probably Steve's going to talk about a little later is reduce the cost to serve digital customers, increase the number of fully digital customers, drive mass adoption of new products and features. We do this by educating both customers and employees across the full bank ecosystem: retail banking, business banking, wealth management, insurance, just to name a few. And we have three elements: the customer self-serve hub, the assisted serve for contact center and branch, and the employee platform.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to see the technology. And this is one of the aspects of my job, which I like a lot. We've kind of been able to watch your technology evolve over the years, and thinking back to when you first came across the Finovate stage, just how much you've grown, how much more capabilities you have since that point. Has really been fun. It's been a really cool journey. So now let's talk specifically about your demo at FinovateSpring. Steve, backstage, you and I were talking, and you said you were going for the all-time record with 16 different demos in 7 minutes. First question, did you actually get there? Did you get all 16 in?
We did. So we are definitely the Finovate record holder for 16. I'm not sure if we could do any more, but 16 was what we attained anyhow. So,
I mean, it's impressive. Obviously, a very quick moving demo. And I would encourage anybody, by the way, who hasn't seen it yet to go and take a look and count for yourselves. Let's hold Steve to account here and make sure he did actually get all 16 in. But let's what about your technology really lets you do that number of demos in such a short frame of time?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing that it comes down to is there are just so many use cases for the Horizn platform. So as we cycled through the 16 different demos, we were also highlighting the different use cases. So we showed how our digital demos can be used in the branch to be able to help with a human meets digital conversation. But then equally important, we showed how it works from a contact center perspective, and how do you shorten call times. And then you start thinking about the customer self-service world. And generally, when you go to a bank's website who's not using Horizn, typically, if you're looking for an answer to a digital related question, oftentimes you really can't find a good answer. So as we started to go through the different demos and showed how that worked, there's just a ton of examples of how our platform can work. And Greg, I think what's really also true in the industry is all banks have the same challenges. So Janice just mentioned that we work with all different shapes and sizes of financial institutions. So when we're up on stage at Finovate and we're talking about a use case, the setup for that use case is fairly short, because everyone's like, oh yeah, our call center is getting flooded, or our digital experience is lousy, or whatever the case might be. And we see that same challenge exists whether you're a national bank or whether you're a credit union. So it really resonates with everybody that was in the crowd.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things too, there's this kind of simplicity that underscores a lot of what you do, which is really is just about helping people to understand the technology that your bank offers. And obviously that can take so many different shapes. It can be relevant in so many different areas, but at its core, it's a relatively simple thing to understand, which is just how can you help people to use the technology that you've provided for them? And I think that's one of those things which has really allowed you to grow, and you found so many different areas to kind of apply that basic principle towards. Janice, I remember you and I were talking back in, spring of 2020, kind of at the beginning of the pandemic time. We were looking at kind of the broader banking ecosystem at that point. And I asked you how the pandemic was affecting Horizn in particular. And you were saying that you guys have been more busy at that point than you ever had been before. That kind of the pandemic was forcing people to really prioritize a lot of these digital interactions in a way that they hadn't been. So, a couple of years on, how has that continued to have an impact for what Horizn is doing?
Well, it's true. In 2020, everyone was, completely panicked. They had us convert to digital really fast. There was a lot of things that banks had to fix right away, right? So we were very busy that year, just getting everyone and new and existing clients sort of in a safe place, right? And then what we found in 2021, a lot of the banks went inward. Right? Like, what am I really missing? What do I really need to build? And where am I putting my money and investing? Right? So 21, I think of as a building year where financial institutions really put their hats on and got under the hood and both the front and back end of the business. And 2021, and now and now as we head into 2022 and we're in 2022, it is insane how much is launching. Right? So we're in a time of strong focus on ensuring both the customers and the employees really get digitally fluent fast, from new digital features, complex ones, as well as back systems like teller systems that are coming to market. So we're busy ensuring products are launched well, ensuring customer employees know what's coming, right? And really this idea of creating fully digital customers, especially with all the new products and the features, right? It's not about the little things anymore. I mean, those still count, but there's a lot of work to get fully digital customers in the market.
Yeah, this certainly lines up with what we've been seeing at Finovate, where, we're in a moment right now, we're kind of still searching as an industry for what that next sort of status quo is going to look like. And there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of new innovations, new technologies, and maybe new motivation, a renewed motivation maybe for embracing some of the digital tools that people had been more hesitant to look at prior to the pandemic. Obviously you guys are in contact with a lot of different financial institutions of all different kinds of sizes. What are the one or two areas where you would see banks really struggling? Are there a couple that you can kind of pull out?
Yeah, I think two of them really come to mind, Greg. The first one is redefining what a digital customer truly is. So if we go back into our time machine and imagine life before the pandemic, and we think about what that definition of a digital customer often was. And it used to be, Greg, a common one that we would hear from banks is someone who does a digital transaction in the last 90 days. And obviously, as we sit in 2022, that is not the definition and cannot be the definition today. And I think what's exciting is as we think about that fully digital customer, what we spend a lot of time talking to banks about is that journey to get to that stage. And I think now most banks or leading banks are thinking about that fully digital customer, not just as non-digital or digital, but what are all of the different steps to be able to get there? And if you think about an adoption curve, a standard adoption curve, and you think about taking that customer from being non-digital to doing their first digital transaction, and then all the way to the other side where they might be using the latest PFM tool or using an integrated finance capability from the bank. And I think there's just a lot of work being done by banks on double-clicking on their customer base, understanding what that means to be fully digital, and then building a strategy to be able to get there. Now, equally important, the expectation of customers from a digital perspective has increased significantly. They expect that same type of digital experience that they get from Amazon or Apple. They truly do expect to get that from a bank. And I think if you ask some customers about banking and digital banking, they'll sort of scratch their head and wonder, isn't it just banking now? Is there really such a thing as digital banking? And the challenge with that and the opportunity is that we really need to focus on the frontline staff and ensure that everyone is digitally aware, digitally fluent, and digitally confident. And that's easy to say, but of course, banks have tenured staff who've been there for a long time, and they're being asked to do jobs that perhaps they didn't sign up for. So there's a lot of digital retraining that needs to be done. But equally on the other side, banks are hiring a lot of new people who are coming into that bank for the first time. And it really just needs to be part of the core training component, making sure that everybody understands how to bank digitally. And I think those are really the two components, that redefining fully digital and what does that mean, and then a big focus on making sure that that front line are all fully engaged as well.
Have you gotten any feedback from any of those groups that have surprised you, or have there been any challenges that have come up that you didn't see coming, especially when you engage with some of those? We know there's this inertia which can kind of put downward pressure on innovation and progress, and kind of getting that buy-in from all those different groups within a financial institution can be really difficult. Have you guys discovered anything or learned anything that was not expected, or that kind of really shaped how you looked at where the problems really lie?
I think the exciting part is there is a massive thirst, both from customers and employees of the bank, to become more digitally aware, fluent, and confident. And I love asking the 4 whys. So if you ask a customer about why they're still coming into the bank, and you may hear certain reasons, or we'll call them excuses, but if you ask, why do you feel that way? And you get down to that 4th question, oftentimes those bank customers who are still coming into the bank, not 100%, but a lot of them, no one has ever taught them how to bank digitally. And if you think about your digital native customers, sure, they may have gone onto the app, they may have pushed you to come up with new capabilities or features, but that's not the majority of your customer base. So when you actually have staff who are taking people aside and showing them, we talk about the human meets digital component, and literally showing them step by step how to utilize a digital capability, you're actually changing that customer's life. If you think about the mature market segment, teaching a customer how to bank digitally, you're actually going to lengthen the time that they can actually do their own banking. So there may be a day when Mr. Smith can't make it to the bank, but imagine if X number of days or years before they were taught how to bank digitally. It's game changing. And then equally on the other side, Greg, when we think about employees, it is not fun being asked digital related questions by maybe your neighbor, by a friend, and not knowing the answer in a work situation. And of course, as human nature has it, we only talk about things that are going to make us look smart. So if they aren't digitally aware, fluent, confident, if they can't answer those digital related questions, those frontline employees will never satisfy the goals and objectives of the banks with regards to digital strategy. But with our proven platform that can teach anybody how to utilize any digital capability, all of a sudden it brings new joy and happiness to their workplace. And I think both of those things are really refreshing, Greg, is that there is a big thirst both from employees and customers to learn how to do things digitally. And that's what our platform delivers to both areas.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've always found, people who are outside the fintech space, outside the banking bubble, a lot of the cases, I'm kind of that resource for people. Like, how can I do this? And I'm in a position where, I don't know your bank, but you probably can do something along these lines, depending on who you're banking with. And so I'm like sort of guessing at maybe what's out there. I go on these kind of exploratory journeys with some of the people, like, let's go to your bank's website. Let's kind of click around. Let's see what we can do. And I'm just, a relatively tech savvy person, just kind of clicking through and seeing what all the options are. And when you get to this payoff moment where all of a sudden somebody can get to this moment where they have new capabilities, new confidence doing some of these things, you do see this kind of light bulb moment, which is really satisfying. And on the flip side, fintech actually is cool. The more people can understand about it, the more they can use it, the better they're going to be. So it's extremely validating when you're able to do that. And obviously, every bank out there should be terrified by the prospect of somebody like me trying to walk your customers through their platform. I don't know your bank. I don't know your platform. I'm just guessing. And here I am in a pseudo authority figure, which is obviously not the best case at all. I think this is one of the things, again, why your technology resonates so strongly with our audience. Let's zoom way out. I think we got time for one more question here. Let's kind of come back up to this big picture. What's next for Horizn as you look at the way the fintech ecosystem is evolving, the way the banking ecosystem is evolving? How do you see Horizon's technology growing or changing over the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, 10 is hard, but 5 is more reasonable in technology, But really, the use of digital demos in the authenticated space is what we're seeing happening more and more. We're headed towards what we believe is predictive analytics. We probably have the largest database of digital journeys globally. Right, so we're working with figuring that out. A natural progression we also see is all the different areas of the bank and outside emerging fintech. We're seeing, as Steve mentioned, the digital demos being used everywhere, and especially in the authenticated space. Imagine, for a second, if you could start predicting a feature a customer might use next, right? And I think with the database we have, we're beginning to see the ability to do that. We're in the midst of big growth again, and constantly committed to developing products that resonate with our customers. So we really build with our clients. It's a great, I feel grateful. We're smarter every day with our clients' help and support. I honestly could not be more grateful for where we're at.
No, it really is. It's been, as I said at the beginning, it's been a really fun journey to watch. And I was half expecting you to say by 5 years, everybody will just understand digital products intuitively and it'll all be over. Goal accomplished, box checked at that point. I'm obviously
Who
joking.
knows? I mean, my God, 5 years.
Yeah. But it's been really cool. And again, the simplicity of it really does just come down to that human element. How can you actually get these technologies in front of people in a way that they can use them? So congratulations again to both of you on another Best of Show win. It's been a pleasure chatting, and we'll see what happens. As they say, watch this space. We'll be very fascinated to see how the digital journey continues to evolve. Looking forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frook.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@Finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.